Hello, friends. I get questions that are always, or they seem to be pretty relevant to my own inner process. It's like we're all very connected, and the universe has a really synchronistic way of working. So you guys will ask me a question, and then when I answer the question, it's like I'm talking to myself as well, because I might be going through that same exact thing sometimes. In my own way, right? So yeah, I had a question about stuckness. Always birds making odd sounds in this spot on the ranch that I'm at. I had a question about stuckness, and it was sort of the premise I could feel in the energy was, how do I, get rid of this stuckness? How do I, how can I make it not be here? I want to get to the other side of it. And that's really the mind's perspective on stuckness, right? The mind's like, I don't want this here. This shouldn't be here. How do I go around this? How do I move it to the side? The mind's like, I don't want this here. I don't like this. And in that way, stuckness is the ultimate mind dissolver. Because when the mind's going up against stuckness, it's like this brick wall, right? It can't do anything about it, it seems. It feels suffocated by it. It feels helpless and hopeless. It feels overmatched. And so in a way, stuckness is this kind of divine teacher that's sent to us that is going to help us liberate us from our own mind. Because, and this is the response I had, my stuckness is actually starting to kind of release, and so I'm getting a runny nose. If you'll notice, if you got a lot of stuckness like in your heart, I should have brought tissues, but my hands make good tissues. If you got a lot of like congestion through here, or stuckness, you're gonna have congestion and like a stuffed nose. You might have like shortness of breath. And so I've been going in and out of congestion and then having a runny nose. So it's like congestion when it's feeling really stuck, and then I'm bringing love to the stuckness, bringing presence to it. It starts to thaw, and then all of a sudden, snot just starts running out of my nose. So it's kind of funny how everything is energetic at its core, right? So yeah, and so my response, in essence, and it was just a quick little response, this is obviously a more in-depth response I'm giving here, was, like God is in the middle of the stuckness. What we're actually seeking and what we actually want is not really to get rid of the stuckness. What we're actually wanting is to be all the way in the middle of it, all the way present. What we want is not on the other side of stuckness. What we want is always here, even when stuckness is present, even when congestion is present. What we want is never somewhere else. And so when there's stuckness present, the mind can make it seem like what we want is on the other side of the stuckness, or we're not, going to be in touch with what we really desire until this stuckness dissolves. But the stuckness is actually here to bring you into a deeper sense of presence, is to bring you into a new depth of your own being. The stuckness is like helping you slow down, helping you disentangle from thought. And so that's what I told this person was, what you really desire, like God, we all desire God under anything we want. Underneath that yearning is just a yearning for God, right? So I said, God is in the middle of your stuckness. It's like, be all the way stuck. The mind hates to hear that. Be all the way stuck. No, I want a technique. I want some type of straightforward approach that my mind can use to, whatever, get rid of this stuckness. But like I said, the stuckness isn't here for any other reason than to kind of break down your mind, to bring you into a deeper depth of presence. That's why it's ultimately here. And a lot of times when we go to be with the stuckness, like say it's in our heart or wherever, we'll notice the mind will start coming up with these type of thoughts of like, where did its stuckness come from? What's its origin? Why is it here? How do we get rid of it? What is it? You know what I mean? It's like, actually the mind is just trying to keep us from feeling and being with the stuckness. Because you'll notice in the middle of the stuckness, if you sense into it and you're really quiet and you are really sensitive, you might realize in the middle of the stuckness, you might sense this volcanic dynamic energy that you might feel very scared to feel. Certainly your mind and your psyche and your separate self doesn't want you to feel it, because those are just survival kind of programs like I talk about a lot, and they feel like if you were to feel what's in the middle of the stuckness, that volcano of maybe rage or terror or deep hurt or grief, it's like these survival programs, your mind, the separate self, all this, they feel like that would be too much for you. So they're almost just trying to protect you. And so they're just trying to pull you out of being in the middle of your stuckness into thoughts like, how do I get around this? How do I, whatever, how do I transmute this? How do I, basically get away from the stuckness? How do I get rid of this stuckness without having to feel it? The mind hates the solution of no, the way out is through. The way out is through. Because when you go through the stuckness, these separate self-identities, these fear programs, they dissolve. You're no longer going to be identified with them. And they kind of know that, so they're fighting for survival. And this stuckness, as it pulls your awareness in, it's like those programs fall away. And so they're like, it's almost like they're fighting for your attention. No, because they need you. They need your presence. You don't need them. So you'll notice it's like you're going to be tempted to go with the mind, to go into thought about the stuckness. Where did it come from? Why is it here? Have I done something wrong? Whatever. You're going to be tempted to do that rather than to just rest and be in the stuckness with no thoughts about it, and just feeling the raw energy of the stuckness. And maybe for a while it's just numbness and congestion and like you can feel an inner child just gripping or whatever. But the more you sit with it without an agenda, without trying to get rid of it, you're just sitting with it because you're curious about it, because you're in love with it. Or maybe you're not in love with it yet, but maybe there's just a sense of neutrality, but you're just sitting with it, agenda free. You're not going to your thoughts about it. You're just resting with it. And as you do that from a genuine and sincere place, you'll notice the stuckness might start to dissolve or thaw. It'll thaw. And as it thaws, all of a sudden you might feel rushes of maybe some very intense energy. And that's when you're going to want to go to the mind again, because, this energy, it feels like too much, going to the mind. What's the mind say about this energy? You know what I mean? Like, what's the mind's narrative? And then before you know it, we're off into a narrative, and then that congestion comes back. The reason we do that is because these energies feel sometimes almost too vulnerable to feel. Maybe we have memories of when we felt these in the past, and they didn't feel safe to feel. Maybe our environment, maybe it was because other people told us these energies were wrong. Maybe in the middle of the stuckness is a big fireball of hatred. And you've been conditioned to think that hatred is bad, or a bad emotion and a bad feeling, and you shouldn't feel it. I'm telling you, we all have darkness and light. We all have dimensions of hatred, love, peace, fear. We have all these dimensions. And to repress any dimension is to repress an aspect of yourself. And that's why a lot of us feel like we're in so much lack a lot of the time, is because we're repressing a part of ourself. So we're repressing our own wholeness. If you're not repressing anything, how could you feel lack? You're in touch with your whole self. But if you're repressing something, you're not in touch with the wholeness of who you are. So you're trying to replace energy from the outside that you're not getting from within you, because you're pushing it away because you have a program saying it's bad. I hope you followed that. So you might be feeling vulnerable, too vulnerable to feel like an energy of hatred or deep grief, because maybe someone told you, especially if you're a man, but it could be girls too. I've heard lots of stories about this happening to women as well, of like, your tears are too much, or you're not supposed to cry. And so we unconsciously repress an aspect of ourselves, and this aspect's trying to come up. It's trying to come up to be seen and to be felt. And then, it's like it feels too vulnerable, so it can't flow, and we're unconsciously pushing it down, right? And then we're doing that, and then we're getting kind of trapped in mind programs, and then we're in the mind saying, I don't like this stuckness, how do I get rid of it? I'm gonna slow down for my own stuckness. Sometimes I get going really fast. Yeah, these videos help me move energy too. And they unlock knowings within my own self. That's a big one though that I was hitting on, that when we repress a part of ourselves, of course we're gonna feel lack. And it's like when we're able to have the courage and be vulnerable enough to feel maybe what's in the center of the stuckness, which could be like hatred, like I was saying, well, that hatred's gonna come online, and then we're gonna be in touch with all dimensions of ourselves. And we're gonna feel this sense of completeness within, and then there's not gonna be this desire as much to reach for the outside and try to fulfill ourselves with another person or a drug or a substance or an experience or success or whatever. We're gonna be able to go into our external adventures from a place of, I feel whole and complete within. And that's a game changer, especially in relationships and everything, really. And so this is what the stuckness is. The stuckness is bringing you a repressed aspect of yourself so that you can feel more whole within, so that you can feel more complete. And that's why I said, be all the way stuck. Be all the way stuck. Because when we're all the way stuck, the programs and the walls and the barriers that are trying to keep us from feeling what's in the middle of the stuckness dissolve. As long as we're trying to find a way out of the stuckness or some kind of technique, we're not going to be able to integrate that energy. We're kind of still, we're going into separation still. We're still going with the mind. But the stuckness is here to dissolve the mind and to let you come into wholeness with all that you are. The stuckness is here to unify you, to bring you into congruence with your own heart. So it's a gift, it's a divine gift. Be curious about it. Take whatever time is needed to be with it, to sit with it, to rest into it, to be curious about it. And have the courage when these intense energies start, like when it starts thawing and the intense energies start coming up that you're really scared to feel, have the courage just to relax into them. And know that it's you, that energy is you. You're reclaiming lost aspects of yourself. That's all that's happening. All right, I hope this helped. Thanks for the donations, thanks for the love, the support, the sessions. All very much appreciated. For joining the Patreon. All right. Namaste.